The phone slipped from my trembling hands and crashed onto the kitchen floor. What I just read made my blood turn to ice in my veins. My 12-year-old daughter Emma wasn't just texting friends about homework and sleepovers. She was exchanging messages with a 34-year-old man who called her his special girl and promised to show her what real love felt like. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your location. I picked up the shattered phone with shaking hands, the screen still glowing with those sickening messages. How long had this been going on? How had I missed the signs? Emma had been more secretive lately, guarding her phone like it contained state secrets, but I'd chalked it up to teenage independence beginning early. Dad, what are you doing with my phone? Emma's voice from the doorway made me jump. She stood there in her soccer uniform, grass stains on her knees, looking so innocent and young that my heart shattered into a million pieces. Emma, sweetheart, we need to talk. I tried to keep my voice steady, but the tremor gave me away. Her face went pale. She knew. She knew I'd seen everything. It's not what you think, she whispered, taking a step back. Marcus understands me. He's not like the boys at school who are mean and stupid. He's mature, and he says I'm mature too. Marcus. The predator had a name now. Emma, sit down. Please. I pulled out a kitchen chair, my mind racing between protective fury and the desperate need to handle this right. One wrong move, and I could lose her trust forever, push her straight into this monster's arms. She sat, but her body language was defensive, arms crossed, jaws set in that stubborn way that reminded me so much of her mother. My ex-wife Jessica would know how to handle this better. She'd always been the one Emma confided in, but Jessica was 3,000 miles away in California, chasing her new life with her yoga instructor boyfriend. How did you meet Marcus? I asked, fighting to keep judgment out of my voice. Online. In a gaming forum. He helped me with this really hard level, and we started talking. Emma's voice got smaller with each word. He's really smart, Dad. He's been to college and he has his own apartment and a good job. My stomach churned. Classic grooming behavior. Target a lonely kid, build trust, make them feel special and mature. Emma had been struggling since the divorce 2 years ago, caught between two homes, never quite belonging fully in either. What kind of things does he say to you? I scrolled through more messages, each one making me sicker than the last. This Marcus character was methodically building intimacy, asking about her day, her feelings, slowly introducing more adult topics. He says I'm not like other girls my age, that I'm smart and pretty and that most adults don't understand kids like us. Emma's defiance was cracking, replaced by uncertainty. He says he wants to meet me. This weekend. At the mall. The mall. My hands clenched into fists. This sick freak was planning to take my daughter. I could see the progression in the messages, the way he'd escalated from casual conversation to talking about special secrets and their special relationship. Emma. Honey, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I knelt beside her chair, making eye contact. Marcus isn't who he says he is. Men his age don't become friends with 12-year-old girls because they're mature. They do it because they want to hurt you. Tears welled up in her eyes. You don't understand. You never understand. Mom would get it. Then let's call Mom together. Right now. I reached for my phone, but Emma grabbed my wrist. No. You'll both just make it worse. You'll embarrass me and ruin everything, and Marcus will think I'm just a stupid little kid after all. The manipulation was working perfectly. This predator had convinced my daughter that the adults who loved her were the enemy, while he was her only ally. The sophistication of it made my blood boil. Emma, I love you more than my own life. Everything I do is to protect you. I pulled her into a hug, feeling how small and fragile she was. But right now, you're in danger. Real danger. She pulled back, studying my face. For the first time since I'd found the messages, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. What kind of danger? I was about to answer when my phone buzzed with a text from my brother Jake. He was supposed to pick up Emma for her weekend visit with him and his family. Jake didn't know it yet, but his Navy SEAL training was about to become very relevant to our family crisis. The message read, running late. Be there in 20. Everything okay? Everything was definitely not okay. But maybe, just maybe, Jake was exactly who we needed right now. I spent the next 18 minutes before Jake arrived diving deeper into Emma's phone, and what I found made me want to put my fist through the wall. Marcus hadn't just been grooming my daughter, he'd been studying her. He knew her schedule, her friends' names, her favorite restaurants, even the route she took walking home from school. Emma, I need you to go to your room and pack your bag for Uncle Jake's house, I said, trying to keep my voice calm while screenshots of evidence filled my own phone's camera roll. And I need you to promise me something. Promise me you won't contact Marcus until we figure this out together. But what if he thinks I'm ignoring him? What if he gets mad and doesn't want to be my friend anymore? The panic in her voice broke my heart. This monster had made her terrified of losing his approval. Sweetheart, if someone gets angry at you for taking time to think, they were never really your friend. I kissed her forehead. Go pack. Uncle Jake will be here soon. The moment she disappeared upstairs, I opened my laptop and began what would become the most important research of my life. Marcus hadn't just given Emma his first name. He'd been sloppy in other ways too. His gaming profile was connected to social media accounts, and his social media accounts revealed far more than he probably intended. Marcus Theodore Kellerman, age 34, divorced, unemployed for the past 8 months, living in a rental house just 40 minutes from our town. His Facebook photos showed a thin, pale man with thinning hair and dead eyes. But more disturbing were the comments on posts from other young girls who looked to be Emma's age or younger. My hands shook as I traced his digital footprint. This wasn't his first time. The pattern was obvious once I knew what to look for. He'd befriend young girls online, build their trust over weeks or months, then arrange meetings. What happened after those meetings, I didn't want to imagine. Jake's truck rumbled into the driveway, just as I discovered Marcus's employment history. He'd been fired from 3 different jobs in the past 5 years, 2 from schools where he'd worked as a substitute teacher, and 1 from a youth sports organization. The reasons weren't listed, but the pattern painted a horrifying picture. Uncle Mike. Emma's voice carried downstairs as she ran to greet Jake. My brother's deep laugh echoed through the house, that same sound that had comforted me through childhood nightmares and teenage heartbreaks. But this wasn't something Jake could fix with a joke and a bear hug. Emma, why don't you put your bag in the truck and check if Aunt Rachel sent any snacks? Jake called up the stairs. He'd always been good at reading the room, and he could obviously sense something was wrong. The moment Emma was outside, Jake's entire demeanor shifted. The playful uncle disappeared, replaced by the Navy SEAL who'd spent 15 years tracking terrorists and predators in some of the world's most dangerous places. What's going on? His voice was low, controlled. I handed him Emma's phone without a word. Jake's jaw tightened as he scrolled through the messages, his trained eye catching details I'd probably missed. He was reading not just the words, but the psychology behind them. How long has this been going on, he asked. Near as I can tell, about 6 weeks. But Jake, it gets worse. I showed him my laptop screen with Marcus's information. This guy is a predator. Multiple jobs around kids, multiple firings, and I found at least 3 other social media profiles where he's talking to young girls. Jake's expression went cold in a way that would have terrified most people. But I felt relief for the first time all day. My brother had spent his military career hunting monsters. Now one had made the mistake of targeting his niece. He wanted to meet her this weekend. At Riverside Mall, I watched Jake's tactical mind start working, saw him mentally mapping exits and surveillance points. Not happening. Jake handed the phone back to me. But we're not calling the police. Not yet. Jake, I know you want to handle this yourself, but, Mike, listen to me. He gripped my shoulder. I've worked cases like this overseas. Guys like Marcus, they're careful. They know how to make evidence disappear, how to manipulate the system. By the time local cops build a case, he'll be gone and targeting some other kid. So what do you suggest? Jake pulled out his own phone and started typing. I suggest we find out exactly who Marcus Theodore Kellerman really is, what he's really planning, and how many other kids he's hurt. Then we make sure he never hurts anyone again. Dad? Uncle Jake? Is everything okay? Emma's voice from the doorway made us both turn. She stood there with her overnight bag, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. Everything's going to be okay, sweetheart, I said, meaning it for the first time all day. Jake knelt down to Emma's level. Emma, your dad told me about your friend Marcus. I need you to know that what's happening isn't your fault, and you're not in trouble. But I also need you to trust us to handle this the right way. Emma nodded, tears starting to fall. Am I really in danger? Jake's voice was gentle but firm. You were, but not anymore. Not on my watch. Jake's house felt like a fortress that night, and for the first time in hours, I could breathe. Emma was safely tucked away in her cousin's room, finally sleeping after Rachel had worked her magic with hot chocolate and gentle reassurance. My sister-in-law had a way of making everything feel normal, even when the world was falling apart. She's tougher than you think, Jake said, joining me on the back porch with 2 beers. But she's also more damaged by this than she's letting on. I took a long pull from the bottle, staring out at Jake's perfectly manicured lawn. Everything about his life was precise, controlled, a reflection of 15 years of military discipline. I keep thinking about what could have happened if I hadn't found those messages. If she'd actually met him. Don't go down that road, Jake interrupted. Focus on what we can control now. He pulled out a tablet and showed me a screen filled with data that looked like something from a spy movie. Names, photos, addresses, connection maps, all centered around Marcus Theodore Kellerman. How did you get all this? I asked, amazed. I called in a favor with someone who specializes in cyber crimes against children. Tommy Rodriguez used to be in my unit, now works with a joint task force tracking online predators. Jake swiped to show me Marcus's complete digital footprint. Mike, your daughter wasn't his first target. She wasn't even his 10th. My blood ran cold as Jake showed me evidence of Marcus's activities over the past 2 years. Chat logs with dozens of young girls, saved photos they'd sent him, even location data showing he'd traveled to at least 5 different states to meet victims. Why hasn't he been caught? The beer turned bitter in my mouth. Because he's smart about it. Never meets the same girl twice in the same location. Uses different identities, different social media accounts. By the time parents realize what's happening, he's already moved on to the next victim. Jake's jaw tightened. But he made a mistake with Emma. What kind of mistake? He got comfortable. Sloppy. Started using his real phone number with her, probably because he thought she was ready to meet him. That phone number is registered to his actual address. Jake pulled up a satellite image of a small house on the outskirts of town. Tommy's been tracking this guy for 8 months, but could never get enough evidence for an arrest warrant. Now we have it. I studied the image, memorizing every detail. So we call the FBI? Jake was quiet for a long moment, and I recognized the look on his face. It was the same expression he'd worn when he came home from his last deployment and couldn't talk about what he'd seen overseas. Mike, I need to tell you something about the task force I mentioned. It's not entirely official. He met my eyes. Tommy and I, along with 3 other guys from various special operations units, we handle cases like this when the system fails. When bureaucracy and legal technicalities let predators slip through the cracks. What are you saying? I'm saying Marcus Theodore Kellerman is about to have a very bad day. But I need you to understand what you're asking me to do, and I need you to be okay with how we handle this. The weight of his words settled over me like a heavy blanket. My brother wasn't just offering to help. He was offering to take care of Marcus permanently, using skills the military had taught him for a very different purpose. Jake, I want this guy stopped. But I don't want you to throw your life away for my family. You don't get it, do you? Jake leaned forward, his voice intense. This isn't just about Emma anymore. Tommy's intelligence shows Marcus is escalating. He's not just grooming kids online now. He's keeping them longer, hurting them worse. If we don't stop him, he's going to kill someone. He showed me crime scene photos from 3 different states. Young girls who'd gone missing after being contacted by online predators matching Marcus's methods. None of the cases had been connected until Tommy started building his database. Jesus Christ, I whispered. Emma's survival instincts probably saved her life, Mike. She was scared enough to be cautious about meeting him. But look at this. Jake pulled up Marcus's latest messages to my daughter. He's getting impatient. He was planning to grab her this weekend whether she agreed to meet him or not. My hand started shaking again. The beer bottle slipped from my grip and shattered on the concrete porch. I want him dead, I said quietly. Jake nodded. I know, but we're going to do this right. Clean. Professional. And when we're done, Marcus won't just be stopped. Every piece of evidence he has of his victims will be recovered and used to help them heal. When do we start? We already have. Tommy's flying in tomorrow morning with 2 other team members. Marcus thinks he's been talking to Emma all day, but those messages have actually been coming from a professional who knows exactly how to draw him into the open. Jake stood up and crushed his empty beer can in one hand. Get some sleep, Mike. Tomorrow, we go hunting. I barely slept that night, but when dawn broke over Jake's house, I felt more focused than I had in years. The helpless rage had transformed into something sharper, more purposeful. My daughter was safe, and now it was time to make sure no other parent would go through what I'd experienced. Tommy Rodriguez arrived at 0600 sharp, looking exactly like what he was, a seasoned operator who'd traded one kind of hunting for another. He was shorter than Jake, but carried himself with the same deadly confidence. And when he shook my hand, his grip conveyed both sympathy and absolute certainty that Marcus's reign of terror was about to end. Your daughter's a smart kid, Tommy said, settling into Jake's kitchen with a military-issue laptop that looked like it could survive a nuclear blast. Most of Marcus's victims get completely drawn in by his manipulation tactics. Emma kept enough distance to stay alive. The other 2 team members introduced themselves simply as Chun and Brooks. No first names, no backstory, just silent nods and professional acknowledgement. They moved through Jake's house like ghosts, setting up surveillance equipment and communication gear with practiced efficiency. Show him what we found last night, Jake said to Tommy. Tommy's fingers flew across the keyboard, bringing up a live surveillance feed that made my stomach drop. We were looking at Marcus's house in real time, watching him move around his kitchen in nothing but underwear and a stained t-shirt. The man who'd been slowly manipulating my 12-year-old daughter into trusting him looked even more pathetic in person than in his photos. We've had eyes on his location for 16 hours, Tommy explained. Brooks planted micro cameras during a staged utility check yesterday afternoon. Marcus never suspected a thing. The surveillance footage showed Marcus's daily routine with disturbing clarity. He woke up around noon, spent most of his time on his computer, and made frequent trips to a back bedroom that they hadn't been able to get cameras into yet. That's where he keeps his trophies, Chin said quietly. It was the first time he'd spoken, and his voice carried an edge that made me understand why these men had been chosen for this particular mission. Trophies? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Photos, videos, personal items from his victims, Tommy answered. We've been tracking Marcus for 8 months, and we've identified at least 23 girls he's had contact with. 12 of them met him in person. Of those 12, 5 are confirmed missing. The number hit me like a physical blow. 5 families somewhere had lost their daughters to this monster. 5 sets of parents who'd gone through the same terror I'd felt yesterday, except their stories didn't have happy endings. We're going to get justice for all of them, Jake said, reading my expression. But first, we need to get Marcus out of his house and away from any evidence he might try to destroy. Tommy pulled up a new screen showing text message conversations. This is where your daughter's phone comes in handy. Marcus thinks he's been texting with Emma all night, building up excitement for their weekend meeting. In reality, he's been talking to a behavioral specialist who knows exactly which psychological buttons to push. I read the messages with a mixture of revulsion and admiration. The specialist had perfectly mimicked Emma's writing style, while gradually steering Marcus toward agreeing to meet at a location of their choosing. A parking garage downtown with multiple exit points and excellent surveillance opportunities. He's eager, Brooks observed. Too eager. That's going to be his downfall. What's the timeline? I asked. Marcus thinks he's meeting Emma at 2 o'clock this afternoon, Tommy said. He'll arrive early to scout the location, which is when we'll take him. Clean, quiet, no collateral damage. Jake handed me a radio headset and a tactical vest. You're staying in the surveillance van, but you'll hear everything. I thought you'd want to be there when we get him. Damn right I do. The next 6 hours passed in a blur of final preparations. Emma woke up around 9, and Rachel kept her busy with breakfast and cartoons while the team finalized their operation plan. My daughter had no idea that less than 2 miles away, former Special Operations soldiers were preparing to end the nightmare that had invaded her childhood. Dad, is everything going to be okay? Emma asked when I went upstairs to check on her. Everything's going to be perfect, sweetheart. I hugged her tight, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. Uncle Jake and his friends are taking care of the problem. Will I have to talk to police? Maybe later, but not until you're ready. And when you do, it'll be to help other kids stay safe. She nodded solemnly, and I could see her processing everything with the resilience that had probably saved her life. Emma was stronger than I'd given her credit for. At 1:30 p.m., we loaded into 2 unmarked vans and headed downtown. Tommy's surveillance equipment gave us real-time feeds from 12 different camera angles covering the parking garage. Marcus was already there, pacing nervously near the designated meeting spot, checking his phone obsessively. He's carrying a bag, Chin observed through his binoculars. Medium-sized duffel bag. That's not good. What's in the bag? I asked, though I was afraid to hear the answer. Restraints, drugs, probably a change of clothes for your daughter, Tommy said matter-of-factly. This was never going to be just a meeting, Mike. He was planning to take her today. The radio crackled with Jake's voice. All units. Target is in position. Moving to Phase 2. Through the surveillance monitors, I watched my brother and his team move like shadows through the parking garage. Marcus never saw them coming. One moment he was standing alone, checking his phone for messages from my daughter. The next moment, he was face down on the concrete with Jake's knee in his back and Brooks securing his hands with zip ties. Marcus Theodore Kellerman. Jake's voice was coldly professional through the radio. You're coming with us. Marcus struggled against the zip ties as Jake and Brooks loaded him into the back of their van, but his protests died in his throat when he got a good look at the men who'd captured him. These weren't local cops or FBI agents. These were predators of a different kind, the kind that hunted monsters like him in places where laws didn't matter. What do you want? I haven't done anything wrong. Marcus's voice was high and panicked, nothing like the confident tone he'd used when manipulating my daughter. Tommy slid into the van beside him, and his smile was colder than winter. Marcus Theodore Kellerman, age 34, unemployed, registered address 1247, Maple Creek Drive. You've been messaging with a 12-year-old girl named Emma for 6 weeks, planning to meet her today for sexual purposes. That's not. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Tommy pulled out Marcus's phone, which they'd taken during the capture. Because your text history suggests otherwise. Want me to read some of your messages out loud? Marcus went pale as Tommy scrolled through the conversations. Those aren't what they look like. Emma and I are just friends. She's mature for her age, and the words died as Jake turned around from the driver's seat. The look in my brother's eyes would have stopped a charging bear. Let me explain something to you, Marcus, Jake said quietly. Emma is my niece. Her father is my brother. And you just tried to kidnap a member of my family. I wasn't kidnapping anyone. This is all a misunderstanding. Chin opened Marcus's duffel bag and began removing items one by one. Rope, duct tape, a bottle of chloroform, a prepaid credit card, and most disturbing of all, a small pink dress in Emma's size. Still think this is a misunderstanding? Tommy asked. Marcus's face crumpled as he realized the trap had closed completely around him. Look, I can explain everything. I can pay you. I have money saved up. I can disappear and never contact Emma again. Oh, yeah, definitely going to disappear, Jake said, pulling the van into an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. But not the way you're thinking. They dragged Marcus inside the warehouse, where more equipment was waiting. Not torture devices. These men were professionals, not sadists. But interrogation tools that would break down Marcus's lies and get them the information they needed to help his other victims. Here's what's going to happen, Tommy said, setting up a video camera. You're going to tell us about every child you've contacted, every meeting you've arranged, every crime you've committed. You're going to give us passwords to all your accounts and devices. And you're going to help us find the girls who are still missing. And if I don't, Jake pulled up a chair directly across from Marcus. Then we turn you over to the families of the 5 girls who disappeared after meeting you. I'm sure they'd love to have a conversation. The color drained completely from Marcus's face. He understood now that this wasn't a police operation bound by rules and regulations. These men operated by a different code, one that put protecting children above protecting predators' rights. I want a lawyer. You're not under arrest, Brooks said calmly. You're having a conversation with some concerned citizens about your hobby of collecting little girls. For the next 3 hours, they methodically broke down Marcus's defenses. They showed him surveillance footage from his house, proving they knew about his collection of victim photos and videos. They presented evidence of his previous crimes, connections to missing children, and a psychological profile that painted him as an escalating predator who would eventually kill. The girl in Tennessee, Tommy said, showing Marcus a missing person flyer. 13-year-old Ashley Martinez. She disappeared after meeting someone she'd been chatting with online. Your online persona, Kevin, was the last person to message her. Marcus's hands were shaking now. I don't know anything about that. What about Rebecca Chin in Oregon? Or Samantha Williams in Texas? Tommy spread more missing person flyers across the table. All of them disappeared within 48 hours of their last contact with your various online identities. I never hurt anyone. I just talked to them. Jake leaned forward. Marcus, we found your hard drives. We know what you did to those girls before they disappeared. We know about the videos you made. We know about the photos you sold to other predators. That broke him completely. Marcus started sobbing, his carefully constructed facade crumbling as the weight of his crimes crashed down on him. The confident predator who'd spent months manipulating my daughter was revealed as the pathetic coward he'd always been. I can help you find them, he whispered. Some of them might still be alive. I can give you names, locations, other people who were involved. Now we're getting somewhere, Tommy said, turning on the video camera. What followed was a 6-hour confession that revealed the scope of Marcus's crimes and led to a network of other predators across multiple states. But more importantly, it gave them locations where missing children might still be found alive. As Marcus talked, part of me wanted to walk across that warehouse and end his miserable existence with my bare hands. But watching Jake and his team work, I realized they were doing something far more valuable than revenge. They were building a case that would save lives and bring justice to families who'd been suffering in silence for years. There's something else you need to know, Marcus said as the confession wound down. Emma wasn't my only target in your area. There are 3 other girls I've been talking to. 2 of them were supposed to meet me next week. The room went dead silent. Names, Jake commanded. Madison Foster, age 13, lives on Oak Street. And Lucy Patterson, age 11. My blood turned to ice. Lucy Patterson was Emma's best friend. The clock on Marcus's nightstand read 4:47 a.m. when Jake's team moved into position around his house. Marcus himself was secured in a safe house across town, but his confession had revealed something that changed everything. He wasn't working alone, and his house contained evidence of a predator network that stretched across 12 states. I sat in the surveillance van with Tommy, watching infrared feeds as Jake, Brooks, and Chun approached the house from 3 different angles. The neighborhood was dead quiet, exactly what they'd planned for. Remember, we're looking for computers, hard drives, phones, and any physical evidence. Tommy spoke into his headset. Marcus said the main server is in the basement, hidden behind a false wall. Copy that. Jake's voice crackled back. Front door is clear. Moving to entry point. What they'd learned from Marcus during his confession had kept me awake for the past 2 nights. Emma hadn't been randomly targeted. She'd been specifically selected because Marcus's network had been watching our family. They knew about the divorce, knew Emma was struggling with the changes, knew she was vulnerable. Mike, you need to see this, Tommy said, pulling up Marcus's phone records on his laptop. Look at the call log from the day before he first contacted Emma. The screen showed a 43-minute call to a number registered in Nevada. Who's that? Someone Marcus called the coordinator. Based on his confession, this person provides target lists to predators across the country. Children who fit specific psychological profiles, recent family trauma, social isolation, early signs of rebellion against authority. My stomach churned. You're saying Emma was on a list? Emma, Lucy Patterson, Madison Foster, and probably dozens of other kids in our area. Marcus wasn't just a lone predator. He was part of an organized hunting operation. Through the surveillance feed, I watched Jake's team enter Marcus's house with military precision. They moved like ghosts through the darkened rooms, each one covering different areas according to their predetermined plan. Basement located, Brooks reported. Moving to the server room. Be advised, Tommy said into his headset. Marcus claimed there are motion sensors down there connected to an auto-delete protocol. If you trigger them wrong, every piece of evidence gets wiped. Understood. Chun, you're up. David Chun was their technology specialist, the one who'd been tracking Marcus's digital footprint for months. Watching him work through the surveillance cameras was like watching an artist, every movement calculated, every decision based on years of experience hunting cyber predators. Motion sensors disabled, Chun reported. False wall located. Jesus Christ, guys. You need to see this. What is it? Tommy asked. It's not just a server room. It's a studio. Professional lighting, multiple cameras, a bed with restraints. Chen's voice trailed off. This isn't where he just stored evidence. This is where he made it. The implications hit me like a physical blow. Marcus hadn't just been planning to meet Emma. He'd been planning to bring her back here, to this house of horrors, and record whatever he did to her. How many videos? Jake's voice was tight with controlled rage. Hundreds, maybe thousands. And they're organized by victim name and date. Chen's voice got quieter. Some of these files are recent. Like, really recent. Tommy grabbed his radio. Chun, check the dates on the newest files. We need to know if there are current victims. Several minutes of tense silence followed before Chen's voice came back, strained and urgent. Tommy, we've got a problem. There are files dated from yesterday and the day before. Marcus has been keeping someone here recently. Are they still in the house? Jake demanded. Unknown. But there's evidence of recent occupancy in the upstairs bedroom. Food containers, medication bottles, children's clothing. My heart stopped. Tommy, what if he had someone while he was also talking to Emma? That's exactly what I'm thinking. Tommy was already pulling up building schematics on his laptop. Jake, check the upstairs bedrooms again. Look for hidden spaces, soundproofed areas, anywhere someone could be held. On it. The next 20 minutes felt like 20 hours as Jake's team methodically searched every inch of Marcus's house. They found the computer servers Chun had described, along with enough evidence to put dozens of predators in prison for life. But they also found something else. We've got a hidden room behind the master bedroom closet, Jake reported. Door is locked from the outside. I can hear movement in there. Is it a victim? Tommy asked. Unknown. Could be booby-trapped. Chun, can you disable whatever security systems might be connected to this room? Working on it. Okay, security system is down. You're clear to breach. Through the audio feed, I heard Jake's voice become gentle, completely different from his tactical tone. Hello? Is someone in there? My name is Jake. I'm here to help you. You're safe now. A small, frightened voice answered. Please don't hurt me. I want to go home. Tommy and I looked at each other in stunned silence. Marcus had been keeping a victim in his house, while simultaneously grooming Emma for capture. If we hadn't moved when we did, my daughter would have ended up in that room. What's your name, sweetheart? Jake asked through the door. Madison. Madison Foster. I live on Oak Street. Please, I just want to see my mommy. Madison Foster. One of the 3 girls Marcus had mentioned during his confession. She'd been missing for 4 days, and her parents had been going crazy searching for her. Madison, my name is Jake, and I'm going to get you out of there right now. Then we're going to take you home to your mom and dad. Promise. I promise. Tommy was already on his phone, calling Madison's parents and arranging for medical personnel to meet them at the hospital. But I could only think about one thing. If Emma had met Marcus as planned, she would have ended up in that room with Madison. Mike, Tommy said, noticing my expression, your daughter is safe. She's at home with Rachel, probably getting ready for school right now, completely unaware of how close she came to disaster. But Madison is alive because we moved fast. And now Marcus's entire network is going to fall apart. Every predator he was connected to, every victim they have, every piece of evidence they've been hiding, we're going to find it all. Through the radio, I heard Jake helping Madison out of her prison. Her voice was weak but growing stronger as she realized she was finally safe. How many more kids are out there? I asked. Tommy looked at the surveillance screens showing terabytes of evidence being collected from Marcus's computers. We're about to find out. Madison Foster's reunion with her parents at the hospital was something I'll never forget. Her mother collapsed to her knees when she saw her daughter walking through those doors, alive and relatively unharmed. Her father, a big construction worker named Bill, broke down sobbing in a way that reminded me how close I'd come to being in his position. She's going to be okay, the trauma counselor assured the Fosters as Madison was taken for medical evaluation. Physically, she wasn't seriously harmed. Marcus kept her sedated most of the time, probably planning to. Well, we stopped him before his plans could escalate. I watched the family embrace through the hospital waiting room window, knowing that Emma could have been the girl in that bed if I hadn't found those messages when I did. Mike, we need to talk. Tommy pulled me aside as Jake finished coordinating with the medical team. Marcus's confession led us to something bigger than we expected. He handed me a tablet showing a complex organizational chart. Names, photos, and location data spread across a map of the United States like a spider web of evil. This network has been operating for at least 5 years, Tommy explained. Marcus was just one node in a system that includes predators, facilitators, and what they call collectors, people who specialize in keeping victims for extended periods. How many victims are we talking about? Based on the server data we pulled from Marcus's house, at least 47 children across 12 states. Some of them have been missing for years. Tommy's expression was grim. But here's the thing. Most of their families don't even know they're missing. What do you mean? Jake joined us, overhearing the question. They target kids from broken homes, foster care situations, families where a disappearance might not be immediately reported or investigated thoroughly. Kids like Emma would have been after the divorce, I realized. Exactly. They look for family trauma, recent moves, social isolation. Anything that makes a child vulnerable and less likely to have a strong support network watching out for them. Tommy pulled up another screen showing financial records. This operation is funded by people who pay premium prices for custom content. They put in orders for specific types of children, specific scenarios, and the network delivers. The scope of what we'd uncovered made me physically sick. Emma hadn't just been targeted by a lone predator. She'd been selected by a business that traded in children's lives. What happens now? I asked. Now we follow the money trail and the communication logs to identify every person involved, Jake said. Marcus gave us access codes and account information for the entire network. In exchange, he gets to live. That's it. He gets to live after what he did to those kids. Tommy's smile was cold. Mike, Marcus is never going to see the outside of a concrete cell again. But he's going to spend every day of his remaining life helping us find the missing children and identify the people who hurt them. Dead men can't provide testimony. Over the next 72 hours, I watched Jake's team coordinate with law enforcement agencies across the country to execute simultaneous raids on 38 locations. The operation was like nothing I'd ever imagined. A carefully orchestrated takedown that dismantled an entire criminal network in a single coordinated strike. Phoenix PD found 3 missing children in an apartment complex, Brooks reported during one of their evening briefings. Ages 9, 11, and 14. All alive, all being transported to medical facilities. Seattle office recovered computer servers with over 10,000 illegal videos, Chen added. They've identified at least 15 additional victims from the footage. And Denver found the coordinator, Tommy said with satisfaction. The person Marcus had been reporting to. Turns out it's a former FBI agent who'd been selling information about missing children cases to the network. A federal agent? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Ex-agent. But yeah, he'd been using his law enforcement connections to identify which missing children cases were getting serious attention and which ones were being deprioritized. The network focused on the deprioritized cases. Jake pulled up arrest records on his laptop. 38 arrests in the past 3 days. 17 victims recovered alive. And we're not done yet. What about the families? I asked. The parents who've been searching for years? We've got victim services coordinators reaching out to every family, Tommy assured me. Some of them are getting phone calls they never thought they'd receive, that their children are alive and coming home. I thought about Emma, safe at home with Rachel, probably complaining about homework and arguing with her cousins about what movie to watch. The normalcy of her life felt like a miracle now. There's one more thing, Jake said. The network kept detailed records of every transaction, every communication, every piece of content they created. We've got enough evidence to ensure that everyone involved spends the rest of their lives in prison. And the children? The children get to go home, Tommy said simply. They get counseling, support, and the chance to heal. Most of them will make full recoveries given time and the right help. Including Madison? Jake nodded. Madison's already asking when she can go back to school. Kids are resilient in ways that constantly amaze me. That evening, I sat on my own front porch for the first time in a week, watching Emma play basketball with her friends in our driveway. She was laughing at something Lucy Patterson had said, completely unaware that her best friend had also been on Marcus's target list. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. 43 children recovered total. Network completely dismantled. Your daughter's safety saved a lot of lives, Mike. Emma made a particularly good shot and turned to wave at me, grinning with the kind of pure joy that only children possess. I waved back, knowing that her smile was something Marcus would never be able to steal. Justice, I realized, wasn't just about punishment. It was about making sure the innocent could keep their innocence, and that families could stay whole. 3 weeks after Marcus's arrest, I sat in DR. Sarah Martinez's office watching Emma color in a therapy workbook designed specifically for children who'd experienced online predation. The irony wasn't lost on me that we were using art therapy to help heal the damage caused by someone who tried to steal my daughter's childhood through a screen. Emma's doing remarkably well, Dr. Martinez told me during our family session. She's processing the experience in a very healthy way, which suggests strong resilience and good family support. Emma looked up from her coloring. Dad, can I tell Dr. Martinez about the other kids? Of course, sweetheart. Dr. Martinez, my dad and Uncle Jake helped save 43 kids from bad people. Madison Foster was one of them, and now she's my friend. We talk about stuff that happened, but we also talk about normal kid things too. Dr. Martinez smiled. That sounds like a very special friendship. How do you feel about what happened to you? Emma considered the question carefully, the way she'd been approaching difficult topics since we'd started therapy. I feel scared sometimes, but not about Marcus anymore. I feel scared that I was so dumb. Like, how did I not know he was lying about everything? Emma, I said gently, you weren't dumb. Marcus was a professional manipulator who'd been doing this for years. Even adults get fooled by people like him. But I should have known better. Mom always told me not to talk to strangers online. Dr. Martinez leaned forward. Emma, can I share something with you? In the past year, I've worked with over 50 children who had experiences similar to yours. Every single one of them was smart, careful, and had been taught about online safety. These predators are experts at making children feel special and mature, at making them believe the safety rules don't apply to them. Really, the fact that you felt uncomfortable enough to be cautious about meeting Marcus probably saved your life. Your instincts were actually working perfectly. I watched my daughter's face brighten as she absorbed this information. One of the hardest parts of Emma's recovery had been her self-blame, her belief that she'd somehow failed by trusting Marcus initially. Dr. Martinez, can I tell you something else? Emma asked. Of course. Sometimes I dream about the kids who weren't saved. The ones who got hurt before Dad and Uncle Jake found Marcus. I feel sad that they had to go through scary stuff. That shows how much empathy and caring you have, Dr. Martinez said. It's normal to feel sad about other people's pain, especially when you know you could have been in their situation. Dad says we're going to help other kids learn about staying safe online. I nodded. Tommy Rodriguez asked if we'd be willing to help develop educational programs for schools. Emma wouldn't have to talk about her specific experience unless she wanted to, but her insights could help protect other children. I want to help, Emma said firmly. But I also want to just be a regular kid sometimes too. You can absolutely do both, Dr. Martinez assured her. Helping others heal can be part of your own healing process, but it shouldn't take over your childhood. After the session, Emma and I stopped for ice cream, a tradition we'd started as a way to end therapy days on a positive note. She ordered her usual chocolate chip cookie dough, but surprised me by also asking for rainbow sprinkles. Dad, can I ask you something? Always. Are you still scared about what happened? I considered lying, giving her some sanitized adult answer that would make her feel better. But Emma had been through too much to deserve anything less than honesty. Sometimes I am, I admitted. I'm scared about all the ways I didn't protect you that I should have. I'm scared about the kids we couldn't save in time. But I'm not scared for your future anymore, because I know how strong and smart you are. I'm not scared for my future either, she said, adding another sprinkle to her already rainbow-covered ice cream. Because I know you and Uncle Jake will always keep our family safe. That evening, Emma asked if she could video call Madison Foster to work on a school project together. Watching the two girls laugh and collaborate on their presentation about marine biology, anyone would have thought they were just normal 12-year-olds being normal 12-year-olds. But I knew better. I knew they shared an understanding that most children would never have, the knowledge that there were monsters in the world, but also the certainty that there were people willing to fight those monsters. Dad? Emma called from her bedroom that night as I was saying goodnight. Thank you for finding those messages on my phone. Emma, you never have to thank me for protecting you. That's my job. I know, but thank you anyway. As I turned off her light and headed downstairs, my phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Tommy's team identified 3 more victims from Marcus's files. All alive, all coming home to their families this week. I sat on my couch and realized that Emma's healing wasn't just about therapy sessions and ice cream traditions. It was about knowing that the world was a little bit safer because brave people were willing to step into the darkness to bring children back into the light. 6 months after Marcus's arrest, I stood in front of 200 parents and teachers at Roosevelt Elementary School, holding a folder containing statistics that still made my hands shake. The numbers were staggering. In the 6 months since our operation began, law enforcement agencies across 12 states had identified and rescued over 300 children from predator networks. The investigation that started with my daughter Emma's case has now become what experts are calling one of the largest child exploitation takedowns in U.S. history, I told the audience. But the real victory isn't in the numbers. It's in the empty chairs that would have been filled by victims if we hadn't acted when we did. In the front row sat Madison Foster and her parents, along with Emma and several other children whose lives had been touched by our operation. Madison was now 13, attending therapy regularly, and had become an advocate for online safety education in her own right. "Mr. Patterson," asked a mother from the back of the room, "how do we know if our children are being targeted?" "The signs aren't always obvious," I replied, pulling up the presentation Tommy and I had developed. Increased secrecy around phone and computer use, new gifts or money they can't explain, emotional withdrawal, or sudden changes in behavior. But most importantly, we have to create environments where our children feel safe telling us when something feels wrong. Emma stood up from her seat. She'd asked if she could speak at these presentations, and after months of therapy and careful consideration, Dr. Martinez had agreed it might be helpful for both Emma and other children to hear from someone their own age. "Can I say something, Dad?" I nodded, feeling the familiar mixture of pride and protectiveness that had become my constant companion. "Hi everyone, I'm Emma, and I'm the kid whose dad found the scary messages on my phone." She spoke clearly, with a confidence that amazed me. "I want to tell you that it's okay if you've been talking to someone online who made you feel special. It's okay if you thought they were your friend. And it's really okay to tell your parents if something feels weird, even if you're worried you'll get in trouble." A girl around Emma's age raised her hand. "What if the person says they'll hurt your family if you tell?" Emma looked at me, and I nodded encouragingly. That's exactly what predators say to keep kids quiet. But here's what I learned. They can't hurt your family if adults know about them. The only power they have is secrecy. Once you tell a grown-up, they become powerless. After the presentation, I was approached by Detective Lisa Chun from the local police department. She'd been working closely with Tommy's team to implement new protocols for investigating online child exploitation. "Mike, I wanted to update you on something. Remember Marcus's network coordinator, the ex-FBI agent we arrested in Nevada? What about him? He's been providing information about international connections. We've identified predator networks operating in 15 countries, all connected through the same communication systems Marcus was using." Detective Chin showed me a map covered in red pins. European authorities dismantled a platform with 1.8 million users last month. Australian police rescued 47 children from a trafficking ring. This operation has had global implications. The scope still overwhelmed me sometimes. What had started as a father trying to protect his daughter had uncovered a worldwide network of child predators that law enforcement had been trying to crack for years. "There's something else," Detective Chin continued. "The Department of Homeland Security wants to use your family's story as the foundation for a new educational initiative. They're calling it Operation Lighthouse, programs designed to help parents recognize predator grooming tactics and help children identify dangerous online relationships." Will Emma be comfortable with that level of exposure? That's entirely up to her. But based on what I've seen today, she might be one of our most effective advocates. That evening, Emma and I sat on our front porch discussing the day's presentation and the DHS proposal. She was quiet for a long time, watching fireflies dance across our yard. "Dad, how many kids do you think we helped save?" "Hundreds, sweetheart. Maybe thousands." "And how many more could we help if we keep doing these presentations?" "I don't know. But I think you're right that kids listen better when the message comes from someone their own age." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "I want to help. But I also want to make sure we're not just scaring people. I want them to know that most adults online are probably okay, but that it's smart to be careful." That's exactly the right message. She leaned against my shoulder, and for a moment we just enjoyed the peaceful evening. No phones, no presentations, no reminders of the darkness we'd encountered. Just a father and daughter watching fireflies and feeling grateful for the ordinary moments that predators try to steal. "Dad, yeah. Do you think Marcus thinks about all the kids he hurt?" I considered my answer carefully. I think Marcus mostly thinks about himself. But I think the kids he hurt are getting stronger every day, and that's what really matters. Good, Emma said firmly. Because we are getting stronger. And we're making sure other kids can be strong too. 1 year later, I stood in the Department of Homeland Security building in Washington, D.C., watching Emma pin a badge on Secretary Williams's lapel, a small lighthouse symbol representing the lives saved through Operation Lighthouse. The program that had started with one father's desperate need to protect his daughter had grown into a national initiative reaching schools in all 50 states. Emma, would you like to tell everyone what Operation Lighthouse means to you? Secretary Williams asked, gesturing toward the packed auditorium filled with law enforcement officials, educators, and family advocates. Emma stepped up to the microphone with the confidence of someone who'd found her purpose through surviving her worst nightmare. At 13, she was articulate, poised, and determined to make sure no other child would face what she'd experienced. Operation Lighthouse means that kids like me get to stay kids, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the room. It means that parents know what to look for, teachers know what questions to ask, and law enforcement knows how to find us when we're in trouble. But most importantly, it means that predators can't hide in the dark anymore. The applause was thunderous, but I could see Emma wasn't finished. I also want to say something to kids who might be watching this later. Kids who might be scared right now because someone online is making them feel confused or uncomfortable. It's not your fault. You're not in trouble. And there are adults who will fight for you if you just tell someone what's happening. As Emma stepped away from the podium, I felt Jessica squeeze my hand. My ex-wife had flown in from California for this ceremony, and seeing her pride in our daughter reminded me that sometimes the most broken things can become the strongest. She's incredible, Jessica whispered. I can't believe how she's turned this trauma into something so powerful. After the ceremony, Jake found me in the hallway outside the auditorium. He was wearing his dress uniform, having been officially commended for his role in dismantling Marcus's network. But I could see the weight he still carried, the knowledge of what could have happened if we'd been even a day too late. Tommy wanted me to give you the final numbers, Jake said, handing me a classified folder. The operation that started with Emma's case has now led to 847 arrests across 18 countries. We've recovered 1,234 victims and shut down platforms that were generating millions in illegal revenue. I opened the folder and saw photos of children, some Emma's age, some younger, some older, all of them now safe because one father had found disturbing messages on his daughter's phone and refused to ignore them. Marcus, I asked, still cooperating, still providing information. He'll never see the outside of a federal prison, but his testimony has been crucial in taking down the bigger players in the network. And the kids he hurt directly? Jake's expression softened, all receiving ongoing support. Madison Foster actually wants to become a victim's advocate when she's older. She says Emma inspired her to turn her pain into purpose. That evening, Emma and I sat in our hotel room overlooking the National Mall, working on homework that seemed mundane compared to the day's events. She was writing an essay about personal heroes, and I noticed she was struggling with the conclusion. What are you thinking about? I asked. I'm trying to figure out how to explain that being a hero isn't about being perfect or fearless. It's about doing the right thing even when you're scared. That sounds pretty wise to me. Emma looked up from her laptop. Dad, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't found those messages that day? The question hit me like it always did, a mixture of gratitude and terror. Sometimes. But then I remember that you were smart enough to be cautious, brave enough to eventually trust me with the truth, and strong enough to help other kids. Maybe it would have worked out differently, but it worked out the way it was supposed to. I used to be angry about what happened, Emma said quietly. Not at Marcus. I got over that pretty quickly. But I was angry that I had to grow up faster than other kids, that I had to learn about things that most 12-year-olds don't know about. And now I think maybe I was supposed to go through this so I could help other kids avoid it. Like, maybe this was always part of my story, and I just had to figure out how to write the ending. 2 hours later, Emma was asleep in the hotel bed next to mine, her homework completed and her phone charging on the nightstand. The same phone that had once carried such terrifying messages, now just a tool for staying connected with friends and family. I stepped out onto the hotel balcony and called Tommy Rodriguez, who was wrapping up another operation in Miami. "How are you holding up?" Tommy asked. "Better than I expected. Emma's handling all of this attention incredibly well. She's got good instincts and a strong support system. That combination usually produces resilient kids." "Tommy, I need to ask you something. Are we winning this fight? Really winning?" Tommy was quiet for a long moment. "Mike, predators will always exist. But what we've done is show them they can't hide forever, that there are people willing to hunt them down and make them pay for what they do to children. More importantly, we've shown kids that they have allies, that they don't have to face these monsters alone. That's enough. It has to be. Because the alternative is giving up, and that's not an option when children's lives are at stake." After hanging up, I stood on that hotel balcony looking out at the lights of Washington, D.C., thinking about all the families sleeping safely tonight because brave people had decided to step into the darkness and fight monsters. Emma was right. Being a hero wasn't about being fearless. It was about loving someone enough to face your fears and do whatever was necessary to keep them safe. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, your fight to save one child ended up saving hundreds of others.